Hi guys, Glyphix here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be doing the top 5 builds in CDs. So this is mainly going to be like the meta builds that I recommend you play. And the first build I recommend that you play would be Panther. I'll put the build on the screen in a second. Now you might be wondering why you should play Panther, and I'll give you guys like a breakdown of the pros and cons for it. So the pros, it has some very good damage and decent mobility, as well as it has a invis in its Panther form, but that's kind of situational. It's not necessarily a pro or a con. But however, you also do slow down in the invis form, so that's why it's like a neutral thing. Now you can play it with multiple Carls, or you can also play it with Hunted. You can play a Purge potentially. Um, you can play a couple hoods, but the Cultist hood is definitely a decent one. Calling Cape is mainly for the increased damage. You can also maybe play a Mortlock Cape if you want to be a bit more defensive, or a Third Foot Cape for more like guaranteed damage with your auto attacks. But overall, I'd say Calling Cape's a good bet. The Mistwalker jacket is mandatory. The boots, you can play any plate boots for the health regen on the boot ability. And then with the Panther, you can. It's very situational. However, I'd recommend playing which W. Let me just. Okay, thank you, PC. Uh, where are the Panther? The new weapons? Oh, they're probably going to be up here somewhere, aren't they? So I'd recommend playing this W. Now the Qs are situational. Once again, it depends on which Q you're gonna need for range and which if it's gonna be a range matchup or closer matchup. So just be aware of that. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in the fifth position because its weakness for the most part is reflects, and a lot of things have reflects in CDs. So in fourth position we have Fists of Avalon. So the main reason for this being it has some very good mobility, and it has well, the tricky thing is I haven't been able to really test if it's an iframe or not. Some abilities it seems to iframe with its E, and some abilities it still does damage. So there's some wacky coding going on there with its E. For some things it iframes, for some things it doesn't, by the looks of things. So just be aware of this. I believe it consistently iframes certain things, so just kind of you're gonna have to test that as you go along. It has a purge on its E. It has some very good mobility. So that's kind of why it's in the fourth position. I'd recommend playing it with Cultist Carl. You can also switch it out for Hunted or Carl of Purity. However, it depends on your playstyle and how you enjoy playing. Mistwalker Jacket, once again, is mandatory. Any plate boots will work. And then Thetford Cape is probably your best option. So yeah, it's going to take the fourth position. You can pretty much break crystals against anything you can't beat, and you have some very good damage and very good kite. Okay, so now in third position, I'm going to be giving it to Primal Staff. I'd say the Soldier Helmet is definitely the best helmet you can use. Cultist Robe also very good, and then any refreshing sprint, or not refreshing sprint, mana regen sprint. So any cloth sandals would be good. The Primal has some very good mobility. It has very good brawl. It's one of the weapons that you can play in cloth, mainly because when you're in your bear form, you're pretty much a tank, which is very beneficial and allows you to play cloth and then do a lot of increased damage with your Qs and your Ws. Once again, you're going to be playing the same W I would recommend as you would be playing in with the Panther, and then your Q is once again quite situational. So the pros is you have a lot of mobility, you have some very good damage, and the cons I would say there isn't really too many cons to these builds. I mean, a lot of these builds have a lot of mobility, and you can break crystals if you need to, and you also have some regen with your cultist robe, which is definitely beneficial. I'd say your cons would maybe be iframes on your like your stun ability and your form, or maybe your fear ability could catch you off guard. But other than that, this is a pretty well-rounded, solid build, and I'd highly recommend playing it. Something I'd also just like to add is in terms of food, pork omelet's probably going to be the best for this build. Sorry I didn't add foods for the other builds. They're pretty simple. Let me just quickly run over them. So with the Panther, you're probably going to be one of playing Deadwater Eel Stew, or pork omelette, but I'd recommend dead water eel stew. For the fists, probably pork omelette again for the ability cooldowns. That's pretty good. And for this weapon, you're probably going to want to be playing pork omelette as well. So in position 2, I'm going to be giving it to Chillhal. I would say that Hunted is a very good hood to use. I apologize for that. Hunted is a very good hood to use, and also you could also play Carla Purity depending on your playstyle. Once again, um, Carla Purity for the extra damage, and you can also switch to Bop if you need to. Limb Cape is necessary on this build. You definitely need to play Limb Cape. Mistwalker is definitely the best offhand. Mistcaller, sorry. And then any plate boots for some health regen. Cultist robe is probably also going to be your best robe. You are cloth, so you are very squishy. That's one of the cons of this build. However, you also have a lot of mobility. You're mainly going to be playing. Let me just show you the Q you'll mainly be using if you're completely new to the game. Where are you? Here's the frosts. So you're mainly going to be playing first Q just for the range, very good range, and you're always going to be on Frost Nova as well, just for the iframe and the extra mobility. However, iframing is quite challenging. Your E is quite versatile for E's. You can cast it on yourself, negating some damage, or you can cast it on your enemy and basically stun locking them. So a very good combo to use would be using your E on them and then using your Cultist Robe for as much regen as possible. So it's quite a versatile weapon, very high mobility. The only con is you are cloth, so you are very, very squishy. But now let's get into the first spot. So in first place, I'm going to be giving it to Regibo. However, this is definitely debatable. The main reason I'm giving this as putting this as the best build at the moment in CDs is because it's very cheap. So you can play it as a new player. You don't have to be an 8-3 as in this image. You can play it on low tier. It's very cheap, and you can kill majority of stuff in mists. Sorry, in CDs. So the Hunted, I'd recommend playing. I don't think there's a better hood at all. You can play Fiend Carl again, but like Fiend Carl, you can play with most builds. It's just sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Hunter, it's more consistent. Mercenary Jacket's a must. You want to be on. You want to get the extra healing. And then Reggie Bow, you're going to be on Frost Shot, I believe, just for the extra mobility. Q1 and Q3. Wait, let me just make sure I'm not giving you the wrong Qs that you should most likely be using. So Q1 you're going to be using against melee matchups just to give distance. Q2 is very rarely played, but if you want to be an absolute dickhead, then you can play it. And then Q3 is more for brawling matchups. Sometimes you're going to switch to Rare Light, maybe in a mirror matchup, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Frost Nova for the most part. So the pros of this build is you have mobility on your E, and your E is on a very low cooldown, and it does decent damage. You have health regen. You have, like I said, very good mobility. The cons, there are some builds that might be able to run you down. I'd recommend playing this on Pork Omelette once again, just for the cooldowns. So as you can see, it's really a cooldown meta, unfortunately, in CDs, so that you can break against anything you can't kill. But I'd give this as the number one spot, mainly, like I said, because it's very cheap and you can play it as a new player, and you can like kind of afford to learn the build and die quite a few times. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. One last thing I will say, if you're a new player as well, is when it comes down to potions, there is not one potion fits all. Like every matchup can require a different potion, whether that's Resist, Gigantify, or Healing Pots. You're just gonna have to learn that in PvP and see when it's the best to use which potions. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.